Welcome to the Bucket List Project podcast, a weekly show that talks about stories from my pursuit of nomadic lifestyle around the world. Interviews with interesting people who I have met in my journey, and a generous dose of thought provoking conversations around travel as a lifestyle choice. If you love to listen on topics revolving around travel, then this will be a perfect companion for the ride to office or a morning jog or in general when you are winding down for the day. We will have a new episode releasing every Friday. So do share and subscribe to our podcast and get your weekly share of travel inspiration. I want to go back to 1900s, especially during the Industrial Revolution phase, where people overworked for almost 90 to 100 hours a week. That's almost 15 hours for 6 days flat out. Obviously, these long hours had serious impact on social and health aspects of their lives. And it took them almost 30 to 40 years, and somewhere in 1940 is where it was first addressed through the Fair Labor Standards in the US. This agenda very specifically advocated for 40 hours work week. And this was probably the first move to give back hours to the employees. However, this was as it was gaining mainstream acceptance, it was still addressing largely the men in the workforce. And it took another 20 years, probably through 1960s to 80s, where a movement started called the Women's Liberation Movement, which very specifically highlighted the gender divide that existed and faced by women in terms of balancing household responsibilities, career, maternity, childcare, and also fighting for getting promotion and recognition at work. In fact, I think during this movement is where the first introduction of work life balance as a thought or a concept was introduced. In fact, it was done in as a placard in one of the protests that was held during this time. Then from there, it started seeing a lot of acceptance, and we fast forward another 20, 30 years to 21st century. Now our careers started getting more cerebral, and mental wellness became a focal point of work life balance. The discussion around this work life balance and the mental balance became almost one of the hygiene requirements for a prospective employee while choosing an employer. And further advent of startups and startups gaining media attention for disrupting the traditionally held beliefs of HR, a new phase started, or a new term was coined called as work life integration, wherein it is a process of allowing space for both work and your personal life so that you can feel fulfilled in both aspects. I believe now, from 1900s to today, the life has come a full circle. Whereas in 1900s, work was accepted as the only means to upward mobility, and people felt they had no choice. To now, people realizing that work and life can coexist with a superfluous boundary if you want to succeed in both. Can work and life actually coexist? Do they need separate boundaries? And how will workforce look at this in the coming years? Hi, I'm Srinath Shankar, your host, a Party Master scuba diving instructor, co-founder of Pick Your Trail, India's fastest growing leisure travel brand, a digital nomad, and a slow travel proponent. Today's topic of podcast, as I think you would have guessed, balancing life, work, and travel. Is it possible? With me, I have three guests joining us today. First is Vandana Rangarajan, managing partner at 360 Wealth Management, a Harvard alumni at the age of 37, mother of twins, and an avid traveler with a country count of 23. Second, I have Vivek Sivaraman, a senior engineering manager at Amazon, a veteran for more than 10 years actually at Amazon, a certified rescue diver, father of a boy, and with a country count of 25. Third, I have Ajit Soundarajan, Director of Product Design at Flipkart, advisor to startup ecosystem, avid motor enthusiast, father of a girl, and with a country count of 80. All the three of them are dear friends of mine whom I have seen manage and juggle multiple roles successfully in their lives. It'll be a great opportunity to pick their brains and get a sneak peek into their thought process on this particular topic. So, Vandana, you're already a very successful person in your career, an active mother in your children's life, and you also have to manage energy of a founder at home. That's Hari, your husband. Amidst all this chaos, how did you even find time to do MBA from Harvard? And what does the concept of work life balance mean to you?
Hey Srinath, thanks for having me over here. And it's an absolute pleasure to be speaking with your own tribe who you've traveled your life with. Harvard, of course, was a long time dream. It wasn't something that just happened by chance. This was part of my bucket list for a while. I must confess that I don't think that's something that was doable. I didn't think it was doable, and then eventually got around making it happen. And I'm thankful to this entire village that had supported me, right from my colleagues to my boss to, Hari to family, kids, all of them who were sort of part of this journey, who were cheering me on to ensuring I got this. So I'm very grateful for that. Absolutely. So, work, I think, is a sense of purpose. It's that thing that you take pride in, right? And I think from the time we were, being raised as kids, you'd always refer to people with what they really do. So, they're, I'm a teacher, I'm a doctor, or, you know, today it could be I'm a tech junkie or I'm an artist. No matter what, right? You get known for the kind of work you do. And so work in a sense for me is a large part of your life. It is very important to balance life, work, and all of those things that come along with it, but it is intertwined to each other.
So we heard from the woman in the room. As she rightly said, it took a village to get her to Harvard. So let's head to the designer next. So Ajit, managing a large team, multiple stakeholders at office, juggling DIY home projects, and officially you're also called as a compulsive weekend traveler. So, what is your concept of work life balance? Do you believe in balance or integration when it comes to work and life?
Uh, so I think to start with, I think work and uh, life was two different jars. And that's how it was initially. But as I progressed through my journey, what I realized was if you do something that you really enjoy doing, then the lines start to blur and you start to integrate both. So it's more towards work-life integration. It's like uh, design is kind of life for me. So everything that I look around me is like, how was it designed? How can this be better? How can I use this? It's just innate curiosity that has been driving me all along. Uh, so that's been my journey so far.
So, that's an interesting one liner. Life is design and design is life. Wow. So, moving on. So, Vivek, I've been told that you're a poster boy in Amazon for traveling the world. I've also seen your meteoric professional growth within Amazon the last 10 years. How have you embraced both work and life successfully? Are they separate compartments in your life? Does it have a superfluous overlap? And generally, how strongly you believe in the org culture driving this work life integration of balance?
Okay. I think in terms of how I've embraced work and life, I think it well when it started off, I don't think there was a lot of balance as such, right? Like when I joined Amazon, I think 2011. I think that the vacations were much smaller, simpler. It's just a few days, like a long weekend combined with a couple of days at best, right? So things were far more easier at that point than anything. But as my enthusiasm to travel grew, I think these became large. I think the longest I've taken is like 3 weeks out, and the entire 3 weeks I've been able to manage mostly without any challenges as such. So I think over time you also figure out how you can manage the two and how you can essentially segregate the lines between work and whatever you really want to do. And it could be something else, it need not be even travel, right? So that's how it has evolved for me as such. In terms of to me at this point in time, it's definitely two separate compartments. While there is overlap in terms of the planning and how I can make sure things are happening, but I've kind of figured out that okay, if I have to do this, I have to take care of ABCD, and that would allow me to have peaceful times at my vacation. Right? Like Ajit said, I don't think it's gonna work when you have 2 weeks out to constantly try to juggle between the two. So it's definitely not superfluous. I try to keep the two as much separate as possible. On art culture, I think for me it's a huge difference for sure, because I think for the last 6 or 7 years at least, I'm out for a month minimum every year, and so far I've never had a challenge with respect to my managers or leadership, anybody coming back and telling me that this is just a lot, right? And in fact this year I'm probably like out for much longer than a month overall. So it definitely makes a difference where the org is supportive of what you really do.
Well, all of you have valid points and feels like there's a lot of clarity in your minds when it comes to this topic. But I'm sure it must have been a challenging journey to get here. Like Ajit, have you ever had a phase where you really struggled with this balance? And what kept you going at that point of time?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think this has evolved over a period of time, over a period of decade, I would say, right? I think what I realized during those initial years was uh, I was not doing something which I liked, and that actually interfered a lot with how I traveled. And I think at one point when I came back to India, one thing which I decided was I'll do what I really enjoy doing. And I think that is when things started changing. I noticed it, uh, noticed on how I started traveling, like weekend travels. Way back in 2011 and 12, there was a lot of weekend travels, of course, with you folks as well. Um, Whenever I traveled for work as well, I used to do a lot of weekend planning and was able to juggle with both. Uh, and as it started getting better and better, uh, like my life at Freshworks, where there was, I'd spent quite some time there. Uh, Travel time started increasing. So from weekend travel, it started moving towards like a 2 week, 3 week travel uh, to actually enjoy the places much better. Uh, and I think uh, along this journey, what I had to face was this fear, right? Uh, since some of the fear is associated with, will people think that I'm actually traveling a lot? Hey, you're not at work and things like that. I think travel supported me on that front to actually get. I learned more about myself as well as I learned a lot about uh, places and context around me. And that started integrating with work, and I was able to have better conversations. And I think now at this point, it's I'm far more confident. Uh, I think it was that fear that I was able to overcome along this journey, right? So it was initially a struggle, and the struggle was because I was fearing it. And I think later on towards life, it started integrating more. It just became more natural.
We have spoken about this from an individual perspective, like when Ajit spoke about it. But when it comes to reality, the work life balance or integration has to be in sync for you and your partner also. Vandana, do you ever feel between you and Hari, you guys are in sync with this work life integration, especially given the high profile roles both of you manage professionally? I believe finding common vacation date itself will be a challenge for you guys. Or you believe individual accomplishment of this balance is more important than two partners trying to sync or force fit their work life balance together?
Yeah. So the truth is that, today our vacations get revolved around the kids and their school holidays and when they get to really take off. But if you just go back a bit, I think it's always revolved um, around when we could sort of take out. Of course, your March year endings and all of that is generally time periods that we avoid, but it's been fairly easy to, work around the general holidays that you have and then figure when we could really take off. We have done a lot of short trips, but the main ones definitely need some planning. So, you collectively decide when you take off, and that's how that's worked. In my mind, I think that individual balance is very, very key. And, that's what would lead into, having the same thing with your partner. I think both are integral, but it's far more important for you to find your own rhythm, because it could just mean taking off from what you do every other day and finding your own zone and space to unwind. But it's also important to find that balance with the people you have around you.
Well, when you said that your world revolves around your kids, I think you literally meant it when you're talking about, syncing your vacation around their summer holidays. But interesting point that you make over there. Um, Vivek, I wanted to ask you a very specific question. We spoke about work life balance or integration, whatever it is. But when it comes to the life part of the equation, you still have to find balance over there also, right? There is family, friends, pursuing personal hobbies. How do you even prioritize within the subsection of life these aspects, and what significance does it have for you?
Something that I've just definitely struggled in the past for sure, right? Like I think you when I, for example, started to travel a lot, but then, for example, my wife has motion sickness, so it's hard to do road trips. Luckily for me now, she's far better with cars given the amount of travel that we have done. But it was a challenge at that point, right? And I am an extrovert who is most of the time used to be surrounded with friends a lot. She's not so much, right? So I think things change with uh, the important people coming into your life, and how do you strike a balance between what you want to do and how do you still keep things that are essential for the closest circle that you have is pretty important. And if we don't really get to understand that immediately, I think this takes a little time, or you probably do it a few times, you realize the mistake and then you correct. Like the example is, like, I used to travel specifically just for taking photos. I don't think I've done that in like 6 years after my son. It's just impossible for me to take care of him, carry a camera, and then like I would sit in a place patiently for an hour to take a picture, but that just is not possible anymore. All right, but maybe after he grows further up, I just got a camera recently, which is a smaller one, but I can start taking pictures a lot more than what I hopefully can, given that he's 7 years now. And I'm hoping to teach him how to take good pictures in my upcoming vacation. So I think it's we have to agree that certain things are just not going to be possible for a window. If you're really passionate about something, or if you really want to spend time with someone, you will find a way to do that first, and eventually get to the other things that you really want to.
Well, looks like you put in a lot of effort to kind of prioritize different set of people in your life. So good job on that. And very interesting that you and your son are going to be, shooting photos together very soon. Hopefully, we'll see a lot of them as well. Um, the other day, someone was telling me that money can help you find the balance faster. You can afford as many helping hands or creature comforts at home so that the chores are taken care of and you get more family time. Like professionally, also, you can subscribe to as many productivity tools or assistants to keep you efficient. Vandana, do you believe money to be a crucial element in this equation? I know I'm asking this question very specifically to you because you're the expert in the money matters.
Oh, yeah, I think money is very critical. See, I think the way we travel, right? Early days, we travel to sort of lose ourselves. We try and forget the mad rush that you are in and then try to take a break away from that. But as days evolve, I think we sort of travel to find ourselves, and that's very critical. In my mind, money is important because it sort of sets the tone on what you can do and can't do in terms of how you go about making these trips happen. But I don't think that's a tiebreaker in the sense like if you didn't have too much money, you'll always find other alternates to sort of try and work around it. It's interesting because a lot of times we'd save up, and I remember Hari and I, we were just deciding whether we should be buying a car, and then we realized that, we'd rather make this trip, and then we traveled around to Europe instead of actually going and buying a car. For us, that was far more critical and important and exciting. So it's I think very personal choice for people.
Well, you answered it very easily, but I don't think in real life it is so simple for a lot of people. Uh, Anyways, there's also another school of thought that earning professional cred at your organization allows you to find this balance faster. You earn the trust of your team, your organization, your senior management, you get the space to operate in your own style, and the organization gives you a long way in accommodating your style of work. Being in one of the most competitive and diverse professional ecosystem like Bengaluru, Ajit, do you think this is true, or have you found it to be true?
Um, the credibility part, I definitely agree. In fact, uh, when you stay longer in an org, you end up building trust, then you become more credible, then uh, the words that you say matter a lot for the org. And I think uh, those are like very good uh, positive uh, uh, context that is set for you to start doing some of the things on your own way, right? This has definitely helped me explore a lot more. Both in all my three stints, I think this has happened consistently. Uh, I think the trip that we did in 2017, both to New Zealand and the Vietnam trip, I think it completely changed the way people started looking at me inside the org as well. And a lot of those learnings also, when you start integrating into your work, and uh, when your communication also has some of those, uh, I think the way people start looking at you completely changes. They also understand that you are somebody who's able to very nicely integrate these two and still keep moving, right? Uh, and that is very, very important. So, uh, definitely, it does help. There is no doubt about that.
Well, Ajit, interesting point that you make on credibility, giving you the space and comfort within the organization. But I never realized that your travel stories also give you credibility at work, which is very surprising. I'm sure there are a lot of fans for your bike trip to Laos, Vietnam, and Cambodia. Vivek, I wanted to ask you a follow-up question to this. When it comes to the proportion of this work and life as a balance, is this an equation? Does it have percentages in life? Did this percentage change over time for you? Do you believe that it has to change over a period of time? Can you walk us through your journey from 20s to now?
Interesting. So there is two things, right? One is early in the life, yeah, you, at least for my sake, I didn't have the sort of money to travel really long on international vacations. So the vacations were shorter, smaller, and to predominantly within India, right? So over time that changed, and I was able to afford longer and international vacations, right? So it kind of evolved over time, and in fact I think my vacations are definitely longer than what it used to be 6 years back, maybe. So it it is, I would say earlier in my time I would have spent what, a couple of weeks in a year until probably 2015, 16, 2015 maybe. Post that I think it's more than a month almost every year consistently, right? And what has also helped is, like, in fact I had a conversation with my manager recently. I'm going on a vacation next week and I'm going again on one in December. I told in fact I said we'll possibly go one in April. My manager is like, no, that's like really long advance notice that you're giving, just don't bother, it should be fine. Right, so it kind of helps also to plan really ahead for two reasons. One, it gives people the heads up. It's hard for them to say no, even if your org culture is not to the best, right? It's hard for people to tell a no if you tell them 6 months in advance. That's one. Second, it helps you plan your work as well really well, knowing that you're going in 6 months, and you also know your deadlines at your work much ahead. So you can really plan well for these things and make sure that there's no disruption. And the moment people see that there's no disruption when you're gone and you did things really well, the next time you go and ask, it's going to be fairly easy for them to do the say okay to it, because they know you'll take care of it.
That's an interesting evolution that you speak in the last 10 to 12 years. I have to ask this question to all the three of you. Um, where does travel feature in your life in terms of its importance to you, and how do you generally plan for it? Can you share some tips for our audience?
Uh, yeah, it is a very important part of our life. In fact, me, my wife, and the kid, uh, we keep traveling. The 1-year-old car has already clocked in 25,000 miles. So we keep going around. Just within India, um, we've like Chennai multiple times, obviously. Chennai, Pondicherry, Wayanad, Kochi, Udupi, then somewhere near Gokarna as well. Uh, Multiple places we've been to. Uh, Definitely, there are a lot of impromptus, and the impromptus are based on the long weekends that you get, right? So, one thing which I always end up doing is I look at the calendar year and see when are the times that we get like long weekend, and how can we optimize so that we can get even like sometimes 1 week or 2 weeks off. And I think that is a constant in my head. The calendar is always a constant in my head to start planning these. And as it starts to become uh, uh, unconsciously imprinted in your mind, the way you work and do also, the way you do work and how you plan stuff at work also changes. So that really helps. And I think one of the biggest tip is having that calendar in your mind always.
What about you, Vandana?
See, for us, I think travel is a very big part of life, right? And I think it gives so much perspective. It opens up one's mind, and just the experiences are so enriching. You see different people. You see how the world is so different from that small circle that you live in. And I think that is life changing. So, travel is a huge part of our life for sure. I think, incidentally, the way we've planned for it, uh, we've just taken inspiration from around, right? So we were watching, I remember we were watching Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, and then, I wanted to go to that Tomatina festival. I mean, it was just so intriguing for me. And then we ended up going and meeting up a friend at Spain, and then, we did the entire trip around that. So that was an inspiration we picked. I remember playing a board game, and then we saw how Precastolen was there, and then would not heard of it, and then the kids and we were just figuring out what this was all about, and then we eventually, ended up going to Norway and doing the hike. So a lot of it is inspiration, but also, as friends, when we travel, we have this tradition that during every trip, we sort of figure out where we're going next, right? And that's been exciting. So that's how, we've largely planned.
And you, Vivek?
Uh, I mean, it's pretty obvious that it's quite important, right? Like it's definitely one of my biggest spends in any year over the last few years, leaving COVID aside, and I wouldn't change it for anything. Like I think Vandana said earlier that she was deciding between a car and a travel. I would any day choose travel. Same, no doubt at all. And in terms of planning, I think this group is what makes the plan fun, right? Like most of the times it ends up. I think this tradition started somewhere in 2013, 14, where we end up deciding the next destination in the current destination, right? And unanimously most of us just end up saying, okay, let's just do that. So that's how a lot of this travel has been. It's not about Instagram where we see and whatnot. It's about like, okay, we should go somewhere. Where can we go? And we decide and go there. So I probably still like doing that rather than looking for a place in Instagram or somewhere and then okay, this is nice. Let's go there.
Well, you guys seem to be a bit of expert and at the same time doing it very impulsively in terms of your travel plans. Can you guys share one travel experience from your past which you felt was life-changing moment and it helped you become a better professional at work?
See, a lot of instances, sometimes when I go back and look at how we traveled, there are a lot of things that we wouldn't have done if it was just me by myself or me and Hari, right? For example, when the kids were about a year and 10 months, we ended up doing a 2 week vacation in New Zealand, right? And the only reason this was possible is because we had like a group of friends who traveled along. We're about 10, 11 of us. And, we had great support that way in terms of handling the whole travel and the kids bit. It's important because for me, I think that teaches you a big lesson, right? In work as well, I don't think you can be that one person who'll try and do everything yourself. You definitely need a battalion, an army to sort of support you and help you and enable you to deal with most of these issues that we sort of deal with. So for me, I think, it's always been great to have people who can continue to sort of inspire you or help you distract yourself if you're going through like a rough patch. And that's something that you really take back to work as well.
Well, Vivek, has travel helped you become better at your appraisals with respect to your travel stories and breaking the news gently?
Not exactly on my appraisal forms, but I think I've definitely used it in telling some instances to my teams on like how things have happened, right? Like I think none of us will forget what happened to us in Gokarna where we were stuck on the beach for an entire night. Uh, Nor I think the trip with Hari that I did in Croatia, like like we didn't have any plans for Croatia. We knew that this is the place that we had to stay. In fact, that even changed multiple times. and we just go ask somebody locally like what can we do here. We go do that, and we ended up finding like amazing places. In one particular place, it was like around 10 to 12 waterfalls within small ones, but and a restaurant which was literally the river is flowing, people are sitting in the middle of the restaurant, middle of the river, and actually having food. And this, we never knew such a place existed. Right, and it also a lot of things changes. Like one of the questions that a localite asked us, he said like you guys could go for a swim in the river. We said we don't know to swim, and he was like, what do you mean you don't know to swim? Right, we were like, it was so natural for them to do that, but for us, though we are from a coastal town, we are not used to swimming even in a pool at that point. Right, so that got me to start to learn to swim. Right, and so there are things that you will encounter as you travel, and how much do you look back into that and see that okay, this is something that I can do, though I'm not good at it or I just don't know it. It's definitely something that you can take as an inspiration from travel, because everybody goes on a travel with wanting to have some experience or the other. Right, so based on those experiences, like, can you relate something back to work? I mean, it's not necessary they have to, but I think it makes it easier because you would have experienced that similar feeling while you are traveling, and you will be able to relate to it a lot more.
And Ajit, for you, any life changing moments?
Oh yeah, definitely. I could say like there are three to four stark events that has happened that has completely changed me. The first one was way back in 2009 when I took my bike and rode all the way from San Francisco to San Diego, and this was along the CA1 highway. The CA1 highway, the first time I saw was in the Road Rash game during our younger days, right? And I really wanted to go along a highway where there is mountains on one side and the ocean on the other side. And this was a 12-hour ride on the bike. Everybody discouraged me, but I said, you know what, let's just see what happens. The max that can happen is I have to take a break in between. Uh, and well, that's okay. Let's try. And I think that one thing taught me that I can endure any kind of situation. And doesn't matter how hard life puts you down. Uh, I always find inspiration from that to get back up and keep going. The second one was, uh, I think, again, another bike trip, which was in Vietnam. I think we had planned like a 10-day ride, just buying a bike in Hanoi for $250 and cross-bordered into Laos and sold the bike in Laos. Um, no planning whatsoever during the trip. We just found accommodations along the way, met people along the way, talked with them, had drinks with them. It was a really, really fun trip. And this fundamentally changed the idea of, hey, you don't have to control your entire trip. Like you don't have to plan completely. It's okay. Just it's a journey and not the destination. Just keep going. I think you'll reach there. The same thing happened in Ladakh also for us, and I think that was brilliant. And I think the other one was when I was working in South Africa near Johannesburg. We did a lot of weekend trips, and all along those weekend trips, I'm a techie, so I used to be connected, looking at the phone, hey, where could we go, and things like that. Again, there was a challenge from the rest of the group. Hey, you know what? 2 days we are going to a place where there is no network, nothing, and let's see if you can survive. And that entire group was like six introverts, and I was the only extrovert. And the group completely changed the equations of how we all bonded with each other. And I kind of found an introvertish kind of a part of me, which I'd never even realized before. Generally, friends tell me that, hey, you can never be alone because you have to be always with people. And I think that trip taught me that, hey, you know what, you're also a person who likes to enjoy your own time. Uh, that 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 really changed my perspective. And being in the field of design, uh, design is about doing something for the people. Uh, and if you have to do better design, you'll have to understand people better. And I think along this journey, every time I travel, I start to understand the people of that destination, particular destination, wherever I go better, have conversations with them, and learn more about the place. It just became that. And then get it back to it's a learning that I take along with me. So, and the last one was, of course, scuba diving. I think that has also completely changed the way uh, I've started looking at life. So, I'll end it with that.
Thanks, guys, for sharing what travel means to you. Now, I'll put you guys in a little uncomfortable position with a controversial question. Do you think, given that you have traveled on work many times, can travel be combined with pleasure when you're at work? It is such a gray area and would love to hear your perspective.
Uh, I think it's perfectly okay to combine both. I think most of the folks who also want to, hey, you know what, can I travel to that place? I'll attend that conference and things like that. Uh, Most of them try to combine work and pleasure uh, together. So uh, I think it's completely fine as long as you know how to plan that. That's completely okay. I did miss couple of travel opportunities that were possible when I was on travel trips, and I used to feel for it. Hey, why didn't I go there? I could have taken like extra couple of days off. You don't want that. You don't want that opportunity to be missed. So if there is an opportunity, it's okay. Go just full on. That's what I would say.
Well, thank you guys for sharing your thoughts. I believe we covered quite a lot of interesting aspects of this work life balance topic. I personally gained some amazing perspectives, and I hope so there are listeners as well. Now, coming to the last section of the podcast, let's do what I call the travel dipstick. I'll ask you a few questions to know your travel personality, and you can answer them. So, what are you likely to get caught for? Planning a vacation at work or taking a work meeting on vacation?
Planning a vacation at work and deciding the next travel destination on a vacation.
For me, it would be taking a work meeting on my vacation.
Definitely planning a vacation at.
You guys choose destination first or budget first?
I think I can speak for all three of us. I think it's definitely destination.
Work, life, and travel. What is your ideal mix in terms of percentages?
40% work, 30% life, 30% travel. I think life and travel are, in a way, integral.
They're kind of equal pieces of the pie. One thing makes the other part work better.
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar, right? I mean, prefer would be to have life and travel larger over the long term, but I think at this point I would put them on par because they all complement each other.
So, what is your favorite holiday activity to do as an individual or as a family?
For me, I think the whole adrenaline rush really helps. So that would be my favorite holiday thing to do. And as a family, I love the waters and I would do anything to spend time by the beaches.
Uh, as a family, definitely again the same thing. Spend a lot of time by the water or maybe on top of a mountain. As an individual, uh, I think nowadays uh, I like balancing both the adventure activity and as well as time for myself. Uh, that's how it has changed.
Yeah, I don't think I'm much of an adrenaline person. I think um, I don't think I ever got into the. It didn't even come to my mind to do the bungee jump when you guys all did it. So that's definitely not mine. But I do. I mean, individually, it's definitely diving nowadays, for sure. It is an adventure sport, but it's not an adrenaline sport at all. Unless you get to a point where it gets shit scary for you to dive um, with all things going wrong. So far, touch wood, it has not happened. As a family, I definitely think we are. Definitely a water sport family. And that's slowly getting into my son as well. He has already been telling me he definitely wants to do his first dive when he turns 10.
What do you enjoy the most? Vacation with family, with partner, or solo travel?
It's a tough one to pick, but vacation with family. That way you get to spend time with your partner too.
For me, all three again. Uh, but but if you force me to pick one, I think right now with family, that'll take like a notch slightly higher. That's it.
Yeah, I take family again. If I can combine that with friends, then that would be the best mix.
So, your vacations, are they made in India or you prefer outside India vacations?
Domestic, international are both, uh, it's very tough to choose. But I think if I had to really pick what I would dream about, it would be in exploring the world. So I would go with international.
Remember the trip that we did to Malaysia? Uh, we were looking at McLeodganj, and the ticket prices were 28K, and Malaysian tickets were actually even lesser to a remote location in Sabah Island or something. That was 24K. So it really depends. Uh, I think that can also turn the cards.
Given I'm more of a long vacation person, it's definitely international.
Which place you don't mind going back to again? And which one you're done with in terms of location?
I don't mind going back again and again to Maldives. It's super serene. And to Boston, that's one place that I think I got a lot from, and I would love to go back and see more of it.
Definitely New Zealand. Uh, and want to go back to SF San Fran for some time. Uh, that could be second.
Japan, New Zealand, Budapest, Philippines.
If you had to describe yourself as a city, which one would you be and why?
The one city that I would describe myself is Chennai because I think it resonates me perfectly. I think we're deep rooted in culture and heritage and very proud of where we come from.
So there are two places I'll say. One is Krabi, another is Wanaka. Both the places have water, so that's the commonality. The other one is the mountains behind. I think that's the kind of place, mountains and water where they both meet.
Tokyo. Um, it's huge. It's always bustling. Something is happening every always, and it's very different from every place that I've been to. So kind of resonates with where I always like to be with people, doing something that not sit idle around. So definitely resonated with me a lot.
Wow, that was intense. Quite a colorful travel personality each one of you have. Well, this wraps up the third episode of the Bucket List Project podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode and the conversation around travel and work life balance. Do you think you have it sorted in your life or still figuring out the perfect balance? Well, we hope this podcast has inspired you through the story of our guests. If you liked what you listened to, then subscribe to our podcast, which is available both in Spotify and Apple. See you next week, and until then, have a great time.